funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karas' Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karas, and we are again recording Zoom because we can't get into a public place. We can get inside an establishment. Apparently, the inside is the problem. If I were to do it on the street, that would be fine, I guess, as long as I was drinking and eating Cuomo chips, I think is what we're calling it now, to get to that food requirement. But anyway, we'll talk all about that, especially with our guest, who is right in the thick of the New York City comedy community scene. But right before we do that, I want to thank our sponsors. First one is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with any type of a flyer. They can help you with your social media. They are also experts in the Greek community. Go to their website, hollywoodgreeks.com, to find out where all your Greek entertainment is, which will happen at some point. And also HellenicFestivals.org to find out where there is a Greek festival near you. Now, let me just say one thing, too. Yes, there probably are no festivals, but what a lot of the Greek churches are doing, instead of having a festival with all those people, they're making food and having people pick it up or, take out. So I know that the church in the Hamptons is doing that. And instead of just dedicating one weekend, a lot of them are doing it over the course of the weekend. So anyway, check out HellenicFestivals.org or Baywalk.net is the main domain, and you'll find out what you need to know if you are yankering for something Greek. And sometimes I'm on there too. Also, our other sponsor, Select Flex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? They also call it an insole. What do I do with it? You have to put it in your shoe or your sneaker because it helps you with all of your support needs, your knees, your ankles, your shins, your back, your hips. I do not work out without these. I do not walk around New York City without these in my shoe or sneaker. They are amazing, and what's really great about them is they have an adjustability in the arch, so you can adjust the arch to firm, extra firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. Go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. And there's a 30-second video. And for Karas Comedy Corner listeners, there is a 25% discount. If you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, get a 25% discount. I'm telling you right now, just check it out. They are so good, and they do not cost nearly as much as the custom orthotics. And if anybody's had them, have hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But these are fantastic. So check them out. Okay, very excited for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I, for the first time in Karas Comedy Corner history, and there is a history, at least in my head, which has been about 5 years or 6 years. I think it was my 6-year anniversary. Is that what I posted? I can't remember, which is crazy because I really have a good memory, but it's 9,000 degrees. 6 years. Karas Comedy Corner has consistently posted a show every week, and in the last few weeks we had to skip it. I was away, I wasn't in a place to do it, I was kind of doing some other type of work, and now my web guys actually moved to Ohio. I'll tell you about that. I'll tell our guest about that. It's kind of an interesting story. And so they won't have internet until Thursday. So anyway, I wanted to get our guest, Felicia Madison. I love her. She's really someone I really admire for tons of reasons. One, I don't know how she did this, but she managed to get married and have 3 children. And somehow in the midst of these kids applying to college and going to high school and going to grammar school, she decided to follow her dream, a bit of a Mrs. Maisel-ish scenario, and except it's contemporary as opposed to, the late 50s and
I'm not divorced.
Right, of course. And her husband's adorable, very cute. Got to meet him. And she just came on full force, very funny, and in a what is a relatively short period of time, 3-4 years, we'll clarify, she became the manager, mind you, of the Westside Comedy Club, which is a fabulous comedy clubs. I mean, we don't have that many of them in New York City, and they're all really, really special. And she really took this, first produced, and then there was an opportunity, and then she became in charge. And it's really, really amazing. But you know what's great is that, you know, for some people, sometimes this takes years. And for somebody like Felicia, she's a quick study. And this is where I say that life experience trumps anything else, because you don't need the 10, 15 years to know how to manage. And, you know, you've got, and talk to people. You have that under your belt. So without further ado, please welcome my guest after a little hiatus, Felicia.
I'm going to work you back into shape. Is that what I'm going to do after your hiatus? Well, that was a lovely introduction. I hope, wow, I hate when people pump me up, because then it's just like people are going to be disappointed.
No, no, you're great. No, I mean, no, really. And I sincerely mean that. It is, I mean, I've been doing this almost 20-ish years, and I don't know anybody that's gone on that track that fast. And again, you know, look, like I said, there's not that many clubs to begin with, and then
Right.
take that to how many of these spots really exist. Managing a club, I mean, you know, the probability is really, really small. So
Yeah.
you know, you did it. And also, in between all this, by the way, again, not quite sure how she found the time, she did write a one-woman show that I am sorry I haven't gotten to see, but when you do it again, I will be there, The Miserable Mrs. Madison, and which I just thought was really, I mean, just for you to go and do that. I'm trying to write a one-woman show about my great-grandmother. It's taken me, you know, years, and I'm not even there yet. So I really...
Well, you know, it's funny, like being in this COVID kind of funk, you forget about all this stuff that you did. You actually made me feel good about myself again.
You should feel good about yourself. And the thing is, you are still running Westside Comedy Club, but everything has been virtual. So let's just take it back a little bit. When this all went down, and by the way, Felicia and I are pretty much neighbors. We're Upper East Siders. So we experienced the same thing in New York City, and, you know, plus in our neighborhood, because the Upper East Side is like its own town, right? I mean, it's kind of like its own.
It's a strange place.
It is. But so we found everything here shut down, and people that live on the Upper East Side are very much Upper East Side neighborhood people. Right?
I can't come back to the Upper East Side.
Really?
Yeah, I'm now a size 8, so I'm not allowed.
Yeah. Oh, that's another issue we haven't talked about. I mean, I don't, you know, it's going to be very interesting when we all get out from under the Zoom and we see how some of us.
I'm sitting on my weight.
Right. Right, I know there's a weight limit on the Upper East Side. And,
from the waist up, you can't really see my weight gain. It's all like waist below. So Zoom's been very good to me.
Oh gosh. So what happened? Like, so it was mid-March, and all of a sudden it was like everything shut down. The gyms, the you know, the salons, the supermarkets. Well, the supermarkets were open, but it was like the line, and it was all this. We couldn't get, you know, big deliveries around here. We're all into delivering Whole Foods, fresh direct, all that kind of stuff. You know, that was impossible. We couldn't get a delivery date. And also you have kids that are in school, college, and also, wait, one is.
Yeah, it's been a huge shit show, basically.
Yeah,
this whole thing. Everything's been turned upside down. So yeah, I remember vividly, we had a really big show coming up at Westside. We were super excited about it. Sarah Silverman was coming. Dave Jusko does a show, Dave Jusko, and 5 comics and Dave. And it was a big deal. And it was right on, I guess it was like March 13th, whatever that Thursday night was. And we decided to, you know, we went back and forth, and we just decided it wasn't worth the risk. And, you know, we canceled the show and we shut down the club. We were one of the first clubs to shut down, actually. and, you know, two of the people that worked at the club had lived with their older, you know, parents, and it just wasn't worth the risk. And it was a tough decision, you know, because a lot of comics were disappointed that they were missing spots, and some were understanding, some weren't. And then I saw all the other clubs going on still, and I started to second guess. But in the end, it was the right thing to do. So we're closed, and
no, I mean, I was going to say, and also in the beginning, like, you know, hindsight's 2020. So, you know, in the beginning, I mean, we weren't sure if this was like the end of the world, or was this just something that, you know, happened. It was just a bad flu? I mean, there was so many things we didn't know. You know, was it airborne? Was all that about wiping packages bogus? I mean, like, nobody knew, and the people that were the experts were like, we don't know. So it was
they still don't know.
Well, maybe they know, like, you know, I would say they know a little bit.
It keeps coming in dribs. Like, my theory from the beginning was that this is airborne. And now they're saying it's airborne. They're admitting it. And now they're saying stay outside. And I guarantee the next thing that's going to come down the pipe is outside's not safe. This stuff is traveling in the air outside.
Well, I know, I hear you. But look, again, no scientist at all. You know, math and numbers are my thing. But I think that if that were the case, and when you say airborne, I mean, you know, the one thing they've all agreed on, or one of the things that most of them have agreed on is the distance part. So I think that if it were
not really,
I don't know, maybe I'm just in denial, and I don't want to think it's
well, they're saying now
more sick. I don't know, maybe more people that were sick, not that there isn't enough.
I mean, it's so silly to talk about because I don't really know, but they are saying now that like, for instance, indoors, if you're in an air conditioned streamed area, there like a whole line of people on that row got infected because the air was blowing yet.
Right.
So you don't really know. I don't think they know. I don't think they know.
Yeah. Listen.
So, but bottom line, we're in this for a very long time. I don't think we're getting out of this for at least a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, so. That I can definitely see. We're already 4 months down the pike. I mean, and you know, certainly
more.
March, April, May, June, July. Right, we're a little more than 4 months down. But I completely agree with you. So what happened with you and your family? So what was going on in your house?
Well, I had two children that were graduating, one from high school, one from college. Nada. Yeah, they both got sent home. My son came home in March, and my daughter's school closed in March. And it was just like, you know, they just went home one day, and they thought they'd be coming back, and nothing, no graduations, no proms, no senior week. You know, thankfully we're healthy and everything's good, like everyone says, but for them, you know, like a wedding can get canceled, you reschedule it. Everything gets, you know, you don't reschedule. Like, she'll never have a senior prom. She'll never have a senior graduation. It's just one of those milestones in their lives. And of course, everyone always says they'll have stories and talk about this, and they'll be resilient. Oh, good. Woohoo. They really appreciate that. But for me, it's been the silver lining, because one of my kids was supposed to, after graduation, move to Seattle. The other one was going to move to Austin, which is where she's going to school. My oldest daughter was about to move out of the house, so I was going to be a complete empty nester. And now my nest is completely full. But it's the silver, you know, the one thing that we say with all my friends is it's the silver lining. You know, this is like found time that I would have never had with my kids. It's really kind of in a way, it's kind of a miracle. I mean, they don't view it that way, but.
I mean, I agree with you about the proms and the graduations, and you know, even when like, let's hypothetically say everything is good, and next out of February they have a graduation. I mean, it's in that moment, you know, because by that time they have gone on to do other things. So I have to say my heart really broke for the high, you know, not as much 8th grade. I mean, I have a niece that had graduated 8th grade. I felt bad, but not the definitely the high school and
Yeah.
college, because I graduating from college was such a proud moment for me. And I went on later to go to graduate school, and actually I actually even went to that graduation, but college was like a really big thing, and all my grandparents were alive, and my great grandmother was even alive, and it was just, it was cool. It was really,
Yeah.
it was special. There was something different. I got the accounting degree, whatever, as I'm sitting here.
I remember when my son graduated high school, I wanted him to take a gap year. And he's like, no, I want to graduate in 2020. And I'm like, hey, you should have taken that gap year.
Well, that's probably going to be somewhat of the norm at this point. I mean, to have, first of all, it seems like, and can you please correct me because you know this better than I do, but it seems like the colleges aren't really being financially flexible with the tuition, and it's like it'll be the same tuition, but everybody's going to do it from home, and that's like, really? Same thing with private schools and whatnot. I mean, is that the truth? I mean, that's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, no, I mean, these financial institutions won't survive if they have to start giving money back. They're going to struggle already. They're not going to get the international students. And I mean, even the places in and around the schools, if the kids aren't going back. But I think the majority of the schools for now are going back. Some of them are cutting back. Like some schools are just having like freshmen and juniors one semester and sophomores and seniors the next semester. But it's going to be horrible. Like they're doing all the big classes online, and all the smaller classes, they're putting them into the big lecture rooms and spreading them out.
I was talking to my cousin about this. I want to get your feedback. And you're a good person to ask because you live in the city especially, and you have a child that goes to school in the city. There, as you know, here on the Upper East Side especially, but throughout the whole city and throughout all 5 boroughs even, there are a lot of vacancies, a lot of office buildings, a lot of stores, wouldn't you think that if the issue, I realize there's an issue, of course, with the kids being next to each other and then the teachers, but just in terms of the social distance part, right? Social distance with math and teachers having the option to go, not go. I mean, nobody wants, again, anybody to be sick, but we have so much available real estate now. Like, wouldn't it make sense to just take some of these vacant buildings and make makeshift classrooms? I mean, you've worked on TV and movie sets. I mean, they have trailers, they build like mini cities. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we did that in our high school.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing construction on it for a few years, and it went over, and we went to like the local community house, but it's a pain. You got to move the kids. It depends on the kid's age. Like to get them around, there's a liability to move them from across the street. And I would just think that would be very difficult. I don't know. Like I've seen in some comedy clubs, they're starting to put like plexiglass like cages around the comedians. I think they should do that for all the teachers. Put them in little boxes, and because we're not really worried about the kids as much as we're worried about the teachers.
Right. Well, that's funny because I got my nails done, and it was in the, everything basically, like you and I both live in doorman buildings. I mean, I walk into my own building, and I talk to the doorman like I'm about to place a parlay at Aqueduct. Like everything is, this teller communication. It's like, hey, do I have any Amazon packages? And then you find yourself kind of talking in the hole, and you're slipping things in the, on the desk, and it's like it's weird. I live in a bank. Is basically what I live in. So, but I don't know. The only difference, and trust me, you and I are, the same generation. But in our day, we didn't have laptops and computers. Where now, because the thing is, they can learn any place. Well, I think we can all agree that there is something to be said about learning together collectively in person. So if they can all bring their laptops and at least be together, and at least if there's a problem, they can ask the teacher right there, and then there'd be a smart board and whatnot, it might circumvent a little bit of that, but I don't know. But nobody asked me, so I just thought it was a good idea, and I wanted to get another mother's opinion because I was talking to my cousin, who is a mother. Actually, she's got 3 boys, and they're all, it's high school, middle school, and grammar school. I mean, it's such an age range, so it's really,
I mean, someone was telling me like the psychological implications for some of these young kids is going to be really horrible. Yep. Like staying home, not socially interacting. I think the sweet point is like 18. Someone was telling me like maybe it was 16 to 29 or 30. That they're going to be the most resilient, and this is going to work out the best for them. But above and below, it's going to have some serious ramifications, I think.
Yeah,
I think these kids, I think they should go back to school. I think they should figure out a way. If it is true that if you wear a mask and, wipe everything down, then we should be fine. I think probably most of New York is already immune. I think if we would have tested all of us in February, I think we all would have had it.
Listen, I remember years ago, I went to get a physical, and the nurse goes, "Do you want to test for TB?" And I go, well, what is it? What's the test? And she goes, it's a 4-prong, like almost like a stamp, like if you're stamping. It's like 4-prong stamp. I put it on your wrist, and if it raises, if your skin raises, that means you've been exposed to TB. And I go, oh. I said, well, what happens if I have it? Or I've been exposed. And she goes, we put you on antibiotics for 6 months. I said, look at me. I've lived in New York City my whole life. I've had TB, polio, the clap. I mean, whatever it is, it's a good thing. I didn't mean that. But at measles, although I never really officially had the measles, I've had it all. I've been exposed to everything. I'm like, forget it. I'll be fine. So I agree with you. I think at some point, it's very interesting. My brother-in-law was very sick in January, and knock on wood, spit 1,000 times because I'm Greek. He never really gets sick, and for him to even admit that he was sick was like a huge deal. And I remember like he was going on the 3rd week. And my sister's like, I told him he better go. This is ridiculous. He hates going to the doctor. Between going to the doctor, being a man, and the money, it's like he's just so weird about it. But anyway, and I just called him out, and I don't really care. But anyway, so anyway, eventually he got better. And when this came out, we're like, you had that. No. He's like, no.
I was going to ask you, do you think he had it?
So he has not gone to get the antibody test. My husband, and long story, but has some at-home antibody kits that he got. It was like a business thing.
So do I.
Right, okay. So he did get tested at my house, and it's negative, but he is going to go to like whatever urgent care or something. He is going to do it, but all the things that he said he had, like your eyes hurting, like the chest, which by the way, as this was all happening, said nothing to my sister as it was all going on. But
he should get tested. He could be like one of the first people to be diagnosed with COVID. Is he in New York?
Was he in New York? Yeah. No, they live on the Upper East Side.
Because there was no reported cases here in January.
Right. I think that there were a lot of people.
I'm going to report him. He should get tested. What's his name?
That I can't say. I just called him cheap on my podcast, but so I'm not going to reveal his name because we're going on vacation in a few weeks. It's going to be tense if I say something. But anyway, yeah, it's been crazy. So you went out to the Hamptons.
I escaped. It's been very lovely out here, I have to say. It's funny because I came back to the city once. We had quarantined here and really hadn't seen anyone. Went back to the city, and people don't wear masks out here. I mean, it's gotten stricter, but it was very relaxed. And I went into the city because I just had to pick up some stuff, and I was literally coming out of the elevator. I was just coming up and down and taking stuff out of my apartment and throwing it into my car. And the elevator door opens, and there's an older couple out there, and they see us without our masks, and I felt like I had leprosy. The fear in their eyes and the nastiness towards me. And I was like, oh my God, we're just running in and out. I didn't know. But, and she was like yelling and screaming. I'm like, oh, I am not going back to the city. It's just,
I have to tell
it's
you.
just such an intensity.
People are crazy. So look,
I mean, now I wear a mask all the time because now it's mandatory, but this was like kind of before then.
Right. Look, I'll do the mask. I always, I want to be a good citizen. I want to be respectful. Not quite sure sometimes if I quite buy into all of it, but it's okay. Again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to sit here and, say be an expert. I just don't think that recycling and that breathing in and out, I don't think that's a good thing. And
I don't think yelling at me while you have a mask on is a good idea either. I mean, it doesn't really protect you that much. And to me, I felt like I was quarantining and you're wandering around the city. I think you're more of a risk to me yelling at me than I am just like running out to my car.
Right.
Well, whatever.
My husband.
Gotta love your neighbors.
My husband had a situation. Actually, my building, everybody has been great. It was great. It was funny. It was like a couple months ago, and there was a bunch of us, talking in the hallway, and nobody really had masks. And it was like, well, we kind of live together. Like when you live on the same floor, it's like you live together.
Right.
But anyway, so there is this one woman, and I sort of know her through my niece. She was like a friend of an old friend of my niece's, whatever. Anyway, she's known as being really off the wall. And she verbally attacked my husband. I can't even, and then of course it went right to, you support Trump, and just like the whole gamut, and it was interesting because he said, the elevator door opened and then he waved her, and then he could see she was scared. He goes, oh, go ahead. So he didn't get on the elevator.
Right.
He went down to the bike room to get his bike. When he went to come up, like she saw him like at the bottom of the basement steps, and she started freaking out. It was very uncomfortable. She was cursing. It was disgusting. She was crazy. And then when I told the super and the doorman, who, again, our building is really lovely. We never have an issue here at all. They said, you're not the first. And I'm like, well, and we're like, all right, well, we're calling the building.
Well, I love the whole mesh mask. Have you heard? It's like,
some people look deranged. I mean, they really look deranged.
No, they're wearing mesh masks. That,
right. No, I was talking about like the whole Hannibal Lecter, thing.
Well, like my daughter in college, when they're in the classrooms, when they're in a building, they're going to have to be wearing masks.
Right. No, I mean, look, I wear it. But I have to say, if I'm walking outside and nobody's around me, I put the mask down on my cheek. Nobody's around me, and that's it. And if somebody gets close, I put it up. I go into a store, I put it up.
Yeah.
Like
we ate for the first time in a restaurant. We've been eating mainly outdoors, and never again. My husband refuses to go indoors. But the manager came over to us. Everyone's wearing a mask. The manager comes over with his mask around his neck, and he's like talking to us. And I turn around, and my husband has his, once you sit down, you don't have to wear your mask. But so my husband's, all of a sudden I turn around, he's wearing his mask. He was obviously really uncomfortable. So when the waitress came back with her mask, I said, what's up with that guy? Like, why isn't he wearing his mask? And she kind of agreed with us that he was, an idiot. And I said, well, can you do me a favor? Can you tell him if he's not going to wear his mask that I do not want him coming back to our table?
Right.
And he didn't come back. But then you see him at the other table, like leaning over people. I mean, like people are just like, some people are just, I don't get it.
Well, it's a whole mask etiquette thing going on. So we went up a few weeks ago to Cape Cod, and one night we went to Provincetown. And I haven't been to Cape Cod in quite some time, and it was really dead. I mean, it was also on the chilly side, but it was just dead. I mean, it's Cape Cod, it's a destination. It's like the Hamptons of New England,
right?
And so it was a little dead. And we went to Provincetown, which the last time I was there, it was like jam packed. So anyway, we go finally get something, try to get a restaurant. That was the whole restaurant situation was a horror. Finally, we get into some pub. We went inside. So the music is blasting. The waitress comes over. She's 6 feet away, and she's got a mask, and she's trying to talk to us. What the? So I kept saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And of course, I look like the old fots, you know? And it's just like, it's annoying. So I finally went over to the bartender. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have to lower the music. First of all, it was loud just normally, but now you're talking, and you're up. First of all, you have the mask on. So what do you got to stand all the way over there for? I don't have TV, you know? So, what did I do? But it's just insane. It's
craziness.
It's weird.
And it's not going to end soon. You know, I thought by like October we might be opening, and I don't think it's going to happen.
So tell us what's going on. I really, and I mean this sincerely, I really commend you. You know, first of all, I did a couple open mics that you generously invited me to, and I see you all the time. Plus, you have your own show, F-Stop, for Felicia, and which has been very successful over the years. And you had all these. You started with these laughing lunches and all this, you know, and really had these great shows. And not only did you do an open mic, but because I came to a few of them, but you really were about being supportive of, like, your open mic was I wouldn't even call it an open mic. I call it a writing group, because that was the theme, you know, wasn't
that's the way they've always been. And it's interesting, you know, so I did start doing a new talent development program. It started out as open mics, and I was originally the new talent director at Westside, which I really enjoy. And you know, when I became the talent booker, you would think that I would stop doing the new talent, but we've merged them together because I really enjoy working and cultivating young talent. I really feel like I have you know, even though like you said, I think I have a pretty good comedians hone their material. So, you know, for them, it was very hard, and we loved our mics, and we were family and a community. So I immediately, I took like 2 weeks off and sort of saw what people were doing, what was happening, and I wanted to get a gauge on what the best way was to move forward. So we started doing them as Zoom mics. And did a Zoom marathon, a mic-a-thon. Gary Goldman was one of them, and Aaron Berg, and Paul Mercurio, and Corey Kahaney. A bunch of them were giving feedback for free to the comedians. So it was really great. And we love it. We really, you know, I think when we go back to the club and we're going to actually go physically into the club, I think we're going to still keep some of our Zoom mics because they're very efficient. And we all write our comments in the side, and you know, you save a lot of time, and it's a good way to get together and not spend like 4 hours going from here to there, and you know, the expense, and it's just very time efficient. So that, and you know, some things I think a lot of things that comedians have done to adapt during this time are not going to go away when we go back to the club. There are going to be a lot of things that are going to stay, like TikTok. I mean, TikTok's become a huge thing for comedians, and I don't think that's going to go away when we go back to the clubs. And Zoom shows, you know, may or may not stay. I mean, the incredible thing about Zoom shows that I've enjoyed is I've been able to book comedians from around the world. I did an around the world comedy show where I had a comedian from Tel Aviv, Malaysia, Sweden, Finland, London. I did an LA show. I did a St. Louis show. It's a great way for me to meet talent and perform on a stage and just find talent, really, that I would have never found had this not happened. So it's opened a lot of interesting doors and has changed the landscape of comedy a little bit. I think some comedians are afraid that, you know, it might permanently be this way by choice, because, you know, why not watch a Zoom comedy show if it's great? But there's nothing like live comedy, nothing like it.
I think, first of all, really, I mean, I think it's awesome that you've kept that going, and it's not easy, and it's work, you know, to get everybody together, to get it all scheduled. I mean, I think that I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, it's a double-edged sword, because comedy, no matter what, is intended to be in a live audience. It's the most intimate art form. It's you, the mic, and the audience. It's looking in people's eyes. It's getting a feel of the room. I mean, there's so many factors involved that make a show happen. One of the worst things about Zoom comedy shows is the connection. You know, when a connection goes out, someone's kind of in the middle of something, and all of a sudden there's the freeze and all that. So that, because this whole Zoom thing has not been perfected.
Yeah. So I've been having Wi-Fi problems. And it's really funny because I was on a show the other day, and
it's just like I'm sweating because I didn't put the AC on, and it's
oh really?
Yeah.
So I'm on the show the other day, and I'm performing, and I get to like one of my like punchlines that usually gets a really pretty, like a decent laugh. So he's like one of those, you know, ones you just depend on, and no one laughs. And of course I'm like I'm going, and no one's laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I look close, and I realize like everyone's frozen.
Right.
I was like performing to myself. So I mean, it was like a stormy day. We reset our Wi-Fi, come back, and they're like, okay, she's back. And I'm like, oh my God, I just thought I was bombing so bad. I was like ready to quit comedy.
Right.
And it was like the biggest laugh of the night because I like could come back, and they thought it was so funny, but it was like really true. I was like really like, okay, I'm never doing another Zoom show. But yeah, you know, it's been great. I've been working really hard. I kind of made a conscious effort, and I decided that I was going to spend my time helping other comedians and helping Westside Comedy Club and F Comedy Club. And I really put my comedy on the back burner. I haven't really been creating anything or working on any projects. And I you know, I'm a little burnt right now. And I think comedy is starting to come outside a little bit. People are doing now outdoor shows. So Zoom shows are dipping a little because I think people are now also finding other things to do and looking at now that they know it's going to be a longer haul, or looking into bigger projects and bigger things other than just a Zoom show. So I am still doing my Zoom shows, but I'm limiting them, and I'm going to start spending some time working on you know, getting my family ready and some personal projects. Like one of the things you mentioned is I'm looking at is revamping my one-woman show. So that I might go back to that. I don't know. But it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of it's been a nice learning curve and a lot of fun.
I mean, you know, even though you don't feel relatively new, but you're somewhat relatively new-ish, you know, and like I said, you're a fast learner and you came up the curve, but like I couldn't think of this happening to me in my first 10 years, you know, so it's a lot. It's
right.
It's a lot to take on, and
yeah. It's a little bit of being a little bit of, you know, I come at it with I think the fact that I'm not in the system and around for a long time, that I look at things differently. Like a lot of the things that I was trying to do were things that people would say to me, you know, that's not going to work. Not going to work. It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. That's not the way it works here. You know, it's not the way comedy works. And I'm like, why not? You know, we have like a saying in my family when my dad says like, you can't do it. We're like, would you want me to do it? Because if I could do it, then it could be done. And so I did things that people said. You know, I changed the system a little bit. Like my new talent program was, you know, it's a bringer program, which people don't like, but I made it a better bringer program that really led to something at the club. It led to being passed at the club. It led to meeting really good, valuable people. Like the couple people that I've gotten past at the club have met managers at the club and have moved on to like really great things. So it was that, you know, that people call me their momager. Yeah. Because I really care about them like a mom. I really do. I invest a lot of my time and energy, and I work really hard to make sure that it's a great show with great comedians. And it was originally set up as like a co-op where, you know, we all got a percentage of the profits. But then it turned out the comedians didn't feel comfortable since they were friends taking the money. So I just reduced the price of the ticket. And since I've done this, a lot of other clubs have sort of implemented similar systems there. So I wasn't afraid to like say to people, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I don't like the way this works. It's bad, and I'm going to change it. And I'm doing the same thing now as the talent booker there. People say, you can't do that. And I'm like, why not?
Like, for what? Like, what do you think that you changed that was sort of the norm for many years?
Well, I wanted to make sure for Westside in general, I wanted to make sure that there were only good quality comedians that were on the stage. If they weren't, in my mind, like a top level, they wouldn't grace the stage if they didn't, cut that level of standard that I thought. And anyone else would have to go through my program or be on one of those shows, and then that's how they move up the ladder. I would see other shows being produced at the club with comedians that I didn't think were at the level that should be on the stage. So that was the first thing I did. I cut out all shows that I thought didn't have high quality comedians in it. And people are like, you can't do that, and you have to have a little bit of leeway. I'm learning for, the more up and coming comedians, to give them a place to stay and a place to learn, which is what F comedy is all about. It's that beginner place where, comedians that don't have their credit for late night yet or haven't, broken the mold yet can work. But, it's a hard business. It's a hard business for a young comedian. I think the one good thing that's also going to come out of all of this, unfortunately, is it was like a bubble. There were too many comedians, too many places, too many shows. The market was diluted, and I think everyone was struggling as a result. And I think a lot of comedians are not going to come back to New York, or going to give up or do something else. I think maybe some clubs might not survive. I don't know. I think they'll all kind of be okay. But it might weed out a little bit comedians in the market.
I completely agree with that. The supply, and again, this isn't, touting us and putting other people down or whatever, but it was just too much. I mean, there were too many people. Now, had this not happened, it still would have been that same quantity of people. But this situation has been such a awakening, especially, again, you and I, I've seen a lot. People in their 20s haven't really been through like a stock market crash, or, and I'm not talking about the one in the 30s. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about, the dot-com bubble. They haven't seen some of that, so if you're in your 20s, New York's been pretty good. I mean, the real estate market of 2008, not something that really affected you unless you were left homeless because of your parents. So I'm just saying, a lot of, even the early 30s, New York's been on an upswing for a really long time. And this is sort of like the first time where they're going to be faced with their, New York in the 70s situation. And I mean, I'm just going to be really blunt. You were not here, luckily, but I cannot believe with my own eyes that I saw looting in this city like no other. And that's some scary shit. And that's a whole nother situation. So, and people did defect, not just comics, but just younger people. They were like out of here, whether they didn't live here.
Well, a lot of young comedians are living at home with their parents. They're like, a lot of them are doing Zoom. I see them. They're in their like childhood bedroom. It's like adorable. They're like whispering. They're like, my mom's downstairs, like 30-year-old men. My mom's downstairs. Like, how to whisper.
And they're trying to
I think your mom knows you get blowjobs,
Right, they're trying to do it. They're trying to do a porn joke in their car.
She didn't do a good job raising you if you don't.
That's so funny. I could totally, that's hilarious.
But yeah, you know, like a lot of these clubs are saying, I'm opening. And I'm like, okay, but who's coming? You know, there are no kids, there are no students, there are no tourists. Who is coming to your club if you open?
Right. That's actually was my next point. We did have Al Martin, who's the owner of the Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village Comedy Club, on maybe about 2 months ago. And, you know, Al's been around a very long time. You know, he's seen it all. And, you know, we were talking about tourism in general, because especially with Broadway, he's right in the heart of things. And, you know, it really is such a ripple effect. Let's just start with Broadway. It's hotels, it's restaurants, it's you know, the coffee shop, it's the you know, the gift, you know, the souvenir shop. I mean, it just all, it's, you know, the drugstore, whatever. It's like it all ripples down. You know, people come in and they need stuff, they buy services, and that's right now that's gone. And with Broadway, that's like an abyss. Like there really is no date other than 2021. What does that mean? That January or December? Because then that's another year. I was thinking, I love Christmas.
It's gonna be April.
I love Christmas. I mean, this is going to be a Christmas like never in New York. It's going to be like being in like Florida, you know, where there's like no Christmas.
Thank God you were the elf, right? Thank God you got that elf out of the way.
You know what? It's funny you said that. I had a few things on my bucket list. It was to Elf, which I did 2 seasons, which I honestly, I mean, I wasn't going to go back. I did it already. I wanted to be in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which I did last year for the first time because I was an elf. And then so I got sponsored by Santa. And there's not going to, I mean, it hasn't been officially canceled, but I will put $100 down right now.
Not going to happen.
That's not happening. And talk about crowded. That's crowded. And Rockettes, you know, all of that. So no, I wasn't a Rockette. I always want to be a Rockette. That's not happening. But I did the polar bear plunge a couple of years ago. And that's like, again, kind of probably like another thing. There's like, you know, thousands of people that go to this thing. So I was thinking about it, but in a very like scary way, like, I'm really glad I did that, because what if I couldn't do it? Or, you know, it's like 15 years from now. It's like, I'm not going to do it then. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like.
It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while till this. I think the city is going to take a really long time to get back to itself. And it's probably not going to be a pretty place for a while.
You know, all these neighborhoods that a lot of the kids and, you know, people from, and when I say kids, I mean, you know, also people that also have moved from other places that went to Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy and Harlem and all that. Unfortunately, and this is just a fact, the crime has come back to those places specifically. Not that we can't have crime every place else. I'm just saying, so those neighborhoods that were affordable and have become safe over the years, they're not safe anymore. So not as we speak, you know, so that's gonna, you know, so those options are gonna go away as well. It's going to be a very different, you know, a very, very different dynamic and sad. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I mean, I'm brokenhearted, you know, it's that looting. I can't even get it out of my head. And they came all the way up to like 62nd Street. It was, and Soho I haven't been down to Soho, but from what I hear.
Yeah, really not smart, because all the good stores were up by us, right?
Well, they went to Soho.
They should have done their research before they started looting.
But they went up to, you know, they also went up to.
I mean, Nordstrom's, you know, they should have came to like Saks and Bergdorf's and Barney's. You know, that's where it's at, right?
Well, Saks and Blooming, they've all boarded up right.
Yeah.
So
no, I was walking down the street, and it was sad. It was sad. It was sad walking down the street and seeing boarded up stores. It was sad. Yeah. It was really sad. But I don't know. I don't know
Not
when.
to bring us down. So let's go back up
Yeah.
to like optimism.
Have you been in a subway or have you done any public transportation?
So I only went on the subway once, and it was a few weeks ago to do a show. Jay Nog is doing the Bel Air Drive-In.
Okay.
The Bel Air is a diner in Astoria.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Like the necessity, the mother of invention. So the Bel Air Diner, I don't know the entire backstory, but they have a parking lot, and they probably were like, we got to do something, we got to make money. And because not only were they doing comedy, but they were also screening movies. They made it like a drive-in. And people like us, like, how nostalgic is that? They brought their kids. So, kudos to them.
I saw that on Instagram. I thought that was pretty cool. Was that fun?
Yeah, for thinking outside the box. And then Jay got involved, or Jay thought about it, or I'm not quite sure the chain of events, but he's the one that's doing that there, at least I know, on Tuesday nights. And he's got a stage, he's got a mic, the people are in their cars, they have the speaker, and when they go to laugh, they flick their lights on. I mean, it's, you wind up like just.
I want to do that. I want to do that. That sounds like so much fun. It's just so funny how resourceful everyone is. It's just, we're a creative bunch, and we're going to figure out a way. I found it really sad when I was talking to one person, and it really hit home when he said, for the past 20 years, I've been performing every single night, multiple times a night, for like 6 nights a week. And I have not been on a stage in 3 months. It's still, every time I say it, it gives me chills, and it's not just us. Think about Broadway, these people that or ballerinas or opera singers every day. It's part of their life. It's part of their being. It's all they knew. And it's just like taken away from them. It's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. So, whatever we can do to, sure, Zoom shows aren't the best, but they're better than nothing. And they actually, you get used to them after a while, and you can get some sort of interaction and fun out of it. But I think we're just going to be resourceful and figure out, like, I'm working a lot on producing shows now. I'm doing a lot of different, not necessarily stand-up shows, and things that I've always wanted to do that I couldn't do when we weren't in COVID because, I was competing with NBC or HBO or Netflix, who can't record now because I'm not allowed. So I'm on the level playing field with them now. I could create something the same way they can on a Zoom. Like, I'm doing the same thing SNL's doing. There's no different.
Every show, Fallon, all the talk.
Yeah.
This is it. This is you and I are Hoda and Jenna. I mean, this is exactly what they're doing.
Your dreams can come true now.
I have a nice background. I have a horrible background, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's all homemade. It's homemade television.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah. For sure. So when you say producing, so are you doing, like, what is that exactly? Are you doing like that?
Well, I'm taking a lot of concepts and ideas and talking to a lot of different people. Some people have been doing shows already. Some people are thinking about doing shows. I've been thinking about doing shows. So I work on developing the show, developing, the timeline for it, helping get guests for it, putting flyers together, putting it up on social media, putting it up on, I created, since Westside's closed officially, I created F Comedy Club as an online comedy site. So I'm trying to make it a place to go, like, if you want to know where to go for comedy in the New York up and coming and established market, and I put them up on my platform, and I do my Make My Mom Laugh is something that I started doing.
Very good.
And it's been like, people love it. It's so, like, my mom says she doesn't have a sense of humor, and she's like funnier than the comedians. It's really funny. Like, all the comedians are cracking up. I do this What the Fuck Steve that I'm working with this guy with. I'm working with Frankie French. She came to me with a program called #Debatable as Fuck. We do that on Tuesday nights, and developing 2 other shows with some other comedians that are going to hopefully in the next 2 weeks be up on F Comedy. So
that's great.
I didn't have years and years and years of being in the business, but I had years and years and years of managing 3 kids, a husband, a house, and vacations, and all the things that went along with that. So I'm very good at multitasking. I'm very good at getting things done. I would say one of my, I'm not afraid to ask. It's like one of my, everyone always like, I'm afraid to ask. I'm afraid to do it. And I'm like, I have the philosophy of in life that if you ask me for anything, I will do backflips to help you. So I don't have any problem whatsoever asking anyone for anything. And, I just reach out to people and I ask, like, I reached out to Jerry Seinfeld and his, like, I don't, I'm not terribly, I'm at the point in my life where I'm not impressed by that much. So, you get to be 50, you're like, I'm not afraid. I'm not, it's.
What did you say? When you reached out to Seinfeld, were they receptive or?
Yeah. She got back to me. I actually walked up to him. I bumped into him at an event. I introduced myself and gave him my card and gave him my spiel, and he didn't take my card. He was like, you're great. Keep doing it, whatever you're doing. I saw Jim Gaffigan at sitting in a hotel lobby. And walked up to him, gave him my card, had a nice conversation with him.
Jim's much more approachable than
He was very nice. He asked me questions, and he was definitely more interested. Didn't hear from him. I have to figure out a way to get their card as opposed to give them my card.
Right. Well, Jerry, this was before you got involved. Jerry definitely performed at Westside. I know of once at least.
Yeah.
I mean, he lives, and this is no secret. I mean, he literally lives like 5 blocks away. So.
Yeah. It's a big beef of mine. I'm trying to get him back there. Mm-hmm. He was funny because he went there once, and it was in the beginning, and it was like on a down night, and he tweeted, come to Westside Comedy Club, and he's like, I'll be back in 20 minutes. But there's a Westside Comedy Club in LA. So there were like about 100, 200 people waiting for him in LA.
Right.
He tagged the wrong one. So I just,
Got it.
But I want to get him back because, it's listen, it was a new club. It's only been around for 2 years, but it's definitely hitting it. It's a shame because we were hitting our stride. We were selling out on Fridays and Saturday nights. Thursday nights, getting a really great crowd. My shows on Tuesday and a couple of shows were doing really well. And it's this business, my mom always says, you picked the toughest business. Why'd you pick the toughest business? It's a really tough business. It's a really, really tough business.
If we chose to be astronauts, we would have already went into space. Like, that's how insane this is.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, you have to love it. You do not have a passion for it, it's not a hobby. I mean, yes, obviously the first few years you're finding your way, you're this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying don't go down that road if it's a dream, but at some point you have to realize that you're either in it or you're not, or you got to get out because you're going to make yourself crazy, you're going to go broke, and you're going to be miserable. It's just too hard. And
you sacrifice a lot.
You do. And, you're talking about being creative creatures. And I love that. And I have to remind myself of that. I mean, it's like you got to get out of your own way and just do it. And that's why, like, news, even though let me tell you what's the problem is. It's not that, I have TV on all day and I'm listening. It's just that I'll go on social media to go post something. I'll scroll, and now because every person is an infectious disease doctor, everybody's a statistician, everybody's an expert on You
don't believe anything you see on social media.
Health and well-being.
You don't believe anything.
So then that's how I get sucked in. It's not because I'm watching, Fox or CNN or MSNBC or whatever. CBS, whatever, but I'm like, oh my God, is that true? So that's like, you really, like, you need blinders.
Well, two things, the 2 things that I think are helping me to survive this is, we don't turn on our TV. My TV is rarely on. Maybe we have like TV night once in a while and we sit and watch a movie. And I try desperately not to scroll through social media. It is such a fallacy. There's no, it took me a while to figure that out, because you can just see, like, it seems like everyone's doing so great, and in reality they're not. It's just like all smoke and mirrors. And you do have to, someone that I had on my podcast once, Carrie Nachmani, she said to me, we always used to ask people what their mantra was, and she was like, you don't look left, you don't look right, you just look straight ahead. And if you look left or right, you'll never reach your goal. You'll get so distracted and so distraught and so torn down that you got to keep your eye on the prize. That's her mantra. My mantra is, and the way I, like, sometimes I'll be walking up and down my hallway and I'll be like, I can fix this. I can fix this. There's got to be a solution. There's got to be a solution. And like for every problem, this is what I tell my kids, for every problem, there's a solution. So when people say to me, it can't be done, or it's not going to work, or I hit a roadblock, I'm like, I can fix this. I can fix this. I can fix this.
You're a true mom.
I actually got that quality from my dad, believe it or not.
You're very maternal. So what do you, you said, you sort of answered it before about Westside Comedy Club in October. You guys haven't done any outside shows like some of the other clubs, right?
I
know you're staffed.
I'm not. It's hard for me because I'm not in the city. Right. So I'm actually looking out here for some places. But I just it's the same thing that happened with Zoom when people were doing Zoom shows. I just sort of wanted to see what it was like and how it was going and get a landscape of it. And it, it's sort of like one person starts doing it and then the chips start falling and everyone starts doing it. And I just try to see, what other opportunities or what else is out there, what can be the step past that. So I'm not just, following the crowd. But Westside Comedy Club is, below Playa Betty's, which is a restaurant, which is outdoor dining. So it's definitely something we're thinking about. And I have plans for an outdoor show this week, which is going to be posted on Instagram.
Wait, hang on a second. You got a little fuzz before. What are you doing with La Playa Betty's? You're going to do an outside show upstairs?
We're thinking about it.
Okay.
We have to make sure, obviously, the restaurant business has been hit, and we have to make sure that it's, they're making money, which they are with the outdoor stuff. So we want to make sure this is additive to the business as opposed to detrimental. But I just, I invested so much time and energy in the Zoom. It's like, okay, now I have to switch to outdoor. Really? And it's such a short-lived thing, because by the time October rolls around, who's going to want to be outdoors watching comedy?
Well, it's not a long-term solution, but it's
right.
It's a Band-Aid of some sort. Not a lot. I want to say not a lot.
And not legal, by the way. I don't think it's legal.
Oh, that's interesting.
I looked into getting a permit and I couldn't get a permit.
It's interesting. I know there's one club that's doing things in the park. They sort of kind of got that, which is not quite a new phenomenon. There's been comedy in the park before.
Right.
More like, I think Comedy Central put that on or something like that. And that might be the connection. But there's an
organization that does it. There's an organization that's what they do. They do comedy in the park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I was going to say was Long Island, like Nassau, Suffolk. Nassau and southern west Suffolk County, not Hamptons, have been doing a lot of outdoor shows. Matter of fact, I'm doing one this Friday night at a restaurant that normally does comedy shows, and it's inside. So they are doing.
Well, they're doing shows inside too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like Governors and there's clubs. I think that's one of the ones where I saw a cage around the comedian, like a plexiglass cage, and they just separated people.
Right. And they have like a big tent. So
yeah,
listen, you got to do.
Out here, by the way, they have, you'll like this because you're an exercise freak. They have Soul Cycle outside. They put up a tent and they put up this. But I don't think that's safe, because they're breathing so hard and I'm not doing that.
You know, AKT is my jam. I've been doing workouts at home, and it's not the same. And they always have connections, and not just AKT, but you know, we get Zoom connections when they lose the music, this and that. I mean, and I just ordered, now after all these months, I was working out on the carpet, and I just ordered like a floor to put down because I can't like slide around. I mean, the dancing looks like a lane. I mean, it's so bad. But I did see that. I did see
have you
the water in
have
water.
you tried Isaac Boots?
That's so funny that you say I know. I have to. Have you?
I did. It was, you know, I think it was okay. I mean, I think I may be a little bit too old for Isaac. But the reason why I bring it up is they're doing it out here outside at a place. Right. He's out here doing it. So AKT could do it out in the park. It's an outdoor show now.
So they have a studio in East Hampton. So I think they do privates there. And then sometimes they're also filming in there, you know, when they do the Zoom. And they started doing outside and Amagansett at the Reform Club. They were doing it outside too. So
maybe I'll go. Cause I need to. Well, that was the thing when you started this talking about the orthotic. My knee's been killing me. So I haven't been able to really walk or run, which is what I've been doing a lot of out here. And I really feel like I need one of those orthotics because I joke around that, like, you know, they say in 9 months, everyone's gonna be having babies. I'm like, no, in 9 months, everyone's gonna have a knee and hip surgeries because everyone's just walking.
You asked me.
And literally, I think I need. What you stopped? What?
I said you asked me about the subway. When I did that was the first time I went on the subway, and it was clean, which was a miracle. But I have been on the bus, which is free, so which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah, and honestly, really like the Upper East Side. I mean, anytime I've gone downtown, we've driven. So.
And the subway's not.
I just one time.
Why are the buses free, not the subways?
Right. No, it was a miracle. It was clean. But thank you so much for doing this and taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Like a million things going on. I'm glad we got to finally, you know, connect and do this. You know, listen, keep doing what you're doing, and you're a very creative person. I mean, I can't wait till we're all kind of back in the saddle. And Westside
hopefully
Westside Comedy Club is a great comedy club. I always love when I come. I don't know if I really got a chance to come when you were sort of like when you officially like took over, but I did, you know, you did have me on a couple shows, and I
wasn't there that long.
It's a great room. The food upstairs, I mean, the LaPlaya Betty's is always packed, you know. So I hope we can kind of get past this. I don't know, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? People talk about vaccines and this and that. I don't know. I'm a people pleaser. I just want everybody to be happy. That's all I want. I want to entertain, and you know, so hopefully we will come out of it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to be a little patient and a little bit more resourceful.
And
if I could survive being home with my 2 hormonal daughters, you could survive. How's the marriage before you go? The marriage going okay?
Yeah, we're still married. Although this is way too much togetherness.
It's hard.
We definitely ran out of things to talk about, like after week 2. So it's and you know, everything starts to annoy you. You know, the way they fold the towel. I mean, just the chewing. You know, the chewing, the slurping, the brushing of the teeth, the rinsing. It's obnoxious. It's completely obnoxious.
Yeah,
and I'm sure. Yeah, he's got a whole list of things.
Well, the only thing that gets me through his annoying stuff is I'm sure I have a lot more annoying things about me. So I just try to overlook them.
And your husband's working at home. My husband's working at home.
We're all working. You know, my daughter's working at home. I'm working at home. My husband's working at home. My son's sleeping at home all day, eating and sleeping. That's all he does, and on his computer. My daughter's moping around all day.
Yeah,
the other one.
I know.
So.
It's tough. So give us all your social media and all that stuff where people can find you.
So at Felicia Madison Comedian for Insta and Facebook, Felicia Madison Comedian on TikTok, which is taken off now. One of my videos went semi-viral, I guess you could call it. Who knew? I had no idea. Someone told me, and I was like, really? And then Felicia L. Madison is my Twitter handle. So I just can't keep up with all these social media stuff. It's painful. And F Comedy Club is the website where you go to if you want to watch anything that Westside or F Comedy is producing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Check out Felicia Madison. She's amazing. And thank you, everybody. And we will be back very shortly. I'm actually going to do a few shows this week so I can make up for lost time if that's even possible. So thank you.
I'm glad I got to work you in.
I know. Right. You're a good one too. I'm Ellen Karas. Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Greek Chick Comic. I have TikTok. I haven't done it yet. And Facebook, Ellen Karas, Greek Goddess Comedy. Until next time, be well. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm addicted to Ambien. Anyone? No. I always have to explain to the young people what Ambien is. I'm like, Ambien's what you take when you realize your dreams aren't coming true. I love it when I tell people I'm addicted to Ambien. They always say the same thing to me. Have you tried melatonin? I'm like, really? That's like saying to someone that's addicted to crack, have you tried tea? So I tried these patches. They're have lavender patches, and you put them on your feet, and you sleep with them, and they really work after you take 2 Ambien.